Hi guys, Heather with Running with Scissors, and today we are doing the tutorial on the Dashing Doors first quarter box, and this design is the Rudolph or the Reindeer one that we are going to paint during this tutorial. So this can be displayed during the Christmas season, of course, so this would actually be the second design in the set. The first one was the triple stack pumpkin. This is the second one, and then the third one is the cocoa cup, which should get you through the winter season on your door. Okay, so you're gonna want this piece here, of course, and this big oval piece, which is his nose. And then this bag of goodies. Your bag of goodies will be marked reindeer. However, once again, for the tutorials, we never have them marked, and we also do not have the picture in it because we're doing it now, so it would be kind of hard to have the picture in there for the tutorial. That'd be a great trick though, if I could figure that out. You'll notice in this bag of goodies this time you have a teeny tiny little glue, and that's to glue this nose on at the end. Now, let's get started. Once again, you're gonna need a cup of water and some paper towels. You're gonna need a variety of brushes and a paper plate or an egg carton. And you're gonna need your paint, of course. Baby wipes are good to have. A pair of scissors is handy for your ribbon cluster at the end. And the paints that we're going to use today, I don't know what colors you have in your kits. Of course, I use a variety of paints. I have over 200 different bottles of paint, 200 different colors. So I won't always use the ones that you have. However, your kit should get you started, and you can always mix colors, okay? Today I am using Apple Barrel melted chocolate. Any brown will be great. Any brown that you have. I am using Apple Barrel's red flag. Any red that you have will be fine. I am using Apple Barrel's Christmas green, and once again, any kind of Kelly green or Christmas green will suffice. If you only have like a lighter green, remember you can mix in a little bit of brown and you can darken that green up. And then I'm also just using a basic white. All right. Now, I will tell you quickly, I had to run to Michael's today, and I don't hardly ever go to craft stores. Hardly ever. I know that seems like really strange. But I did run into Michael's this morning, and they have a wonderful selection of acrylic paint. They sell Deco Art, which is, let me show you a Deco Art bottle. Deco Art looks like this. This is a Deco Art paint. And they sell Deco Art Americana, Deco Art, all kinds, okay? And this is a great brand, so Michael's has a wonderful selection. Now they also sell folk art. They also sell folk art. And what I did not know, and I just learned, is that folk art and Apple Barrel are made by the same exact company. See that? plaidonline.com. You see that in that bottom line. And right here, plaidonline.com, made by the same company. All right. Not to say that they have all the same paint colors between Apple Barrel and folk art. They don't, but they are made by the same company. So folk art, Deco Art, and Apple Barrel paint, all great selection of paint. Michael's does have their own line as well. I have not tried that. I should have gotten a bottle to try it to let you know what I thought about it, but I didn't. I'm sorry. All right, let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to push my little reindeer aside here. Well, make sure you have your Posca pens. You're going to want to make sure that you have both your brown and your black and your white Posca pens for this door hanger. I'm just going to paint the nose real quick, and I'm going to paint that red, of course, because my reindeer is Rudolph. Now, if you don't want your reindeer to be Rudolph, you don't have to paint it red. You can just paint it brown or whatever color you want to paint it. And once again, if you don't want to paint your door hanger the colors that I do, by all means, do your own colors. All right, so I'm just taking a rounded brush, and it's my number 11. And I'm just gonna fill this in. You can also use your 1-inch brush. There's nothing to mess up here. There's no lines to stay inside of. We just need to get a coat of paint on this little guy. any way that we can. And I'll put 2 coats on, so I'm just gonna put a quick coat on. And I'm gonna let that dry before I put my second coat on. But I am going to put my brush in my water. I got a little bit of excess paint in my brush here, so I'm just wiping it on until I get the majority of my paint out. And then I'll dab the rest of it off on my paper towel. And then I'll put my brush in my water. And I'm not gonna clean it right away. I'm just gonna let it soak in my water for a second because I know I'm gonna come right back to that nose to put another coat on it. All right, now I'm going to start painting my reindeer. And I am going to paint the face of my reindeer brown, the darker brown. And I'm going to paint the hair and the antlers a lighter brown. Now, I do have lighter brown shades I can pick from my paint selection, but to be fair to you guys, I'm not gonna do that at this moment. I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna mix lighter brown with my white, or darker brown with my white to get that lighter brown shade that I want. But first, I'm just gonna go ahead and use my brown straight, and I'm gonna paint my reindeer here. I am going to avoid all of this stuff here. I'm gonna paint right around it. So I'm gonna use a finer brush to start to do my outlining, and then I'll get a wider brush and do a fill-in. So I do prefer to use angle brushes. Angle brushes are great to get into these little spaces, and right now I'm using a number 8. So you'll probably have to pick your template up and get it close to you so that you are able to see what you're doing when you are painting close to these, to the hairlines and stuff, to the scored marks, right? Like a coloring book. Now, I'm pretty careful, but I also know that I am definitely making this more of a whimsical door hanger this time around. So I know that I'll be going around all of these with my black paint marker, unlike on the last one, which I thought I was going to, and then I ended up changing my idea midway through. Now his eyebrows, I'm gonna end up doing his eyebrows black with a paint marker. So I'm just gonna paint over top of them. I'm not even gonna worry about them. Am going around the outline of the eye though. That will be painted black, so it will go over top of the brown, but I do not want to paint all of that brown first. Sometimes you can get away with doing that, other times you can't.
To make it easier, you could paint over the eyelashes this time as well, which I figured out after I was completed.
You see me turn my brush around so I can use the point of my angled brush to get into these smaller spaces. And of course, you can always use a smaller angled brush if you want to, which until you learn the control of your brush, that might be the way that you go. And you can use a liner brush as well instead of an angle brush to get into those small spaces. It's all about your comfort, what feels best to you. Okay. Just remember that you don't want to leave any clumps of paint. So I call them bumper crops. They're the edges of your paintbrush when you make a swipe. Sometimes you'll leave like a line of paint, and you just want to go back and smooth that out because that will dry like that. And then if you try to wipe it off while it's half dry, it's going to make a mess. So just take your brush while your paint is still wet and just come back and smooth those out. Just want to move that paint around to areas that don't have paint. Alright, so far you see how it looks. And now I've outlined everything and I've just got to go back and fill it all in. Now this is a little bit small of a brush to do the fill. So as soon as I fill from his hair down to his eyes, I'm going to switch brushes. Alright, so I'm going to clean this brush right out. I won't be using this one again for the brown unless I do a second coat and use it. So I'm just going to go ahead and wash it, and then I'm going to lay it flat to dry. Remember to put your bristles back together. You just push your bristles back together so it looks like that. And then I am going to take a wider brush. At this point, you could take your 1-inch brush. Now, if you haven't used your 1-inch brush yet, these brushes come with the bristles glued together, and it's a water-soluble glue, so just soak that brush in a cup of clean water for a second and gently loosen those bristles up. Don't bust them apart without soaking them because you'll just ruin your bristles. Alright, so I'm just going to go and I'm going to fill in all these areas. I am painting right over top of his little smile there that's engraved. I'll still be able to see that smile line, and I will use a paint marker to put his little smile back on his face when we are all done. Right, and there's my first coat of my brown. I'm just going to get the rest of my paint out of my brush here, and then I'll put it in my cup and I will clean it. I'm going to put a second coat on my nose here. And I am using the same brush I started with. It's just been in my water cup, and I just dabbed off the excess water. But I didn't clean the brush thoroughly at this point because I'm still using the same red paint. All right, and that nose is done. I am done with this brush, so I am going to clean it out. All right, next I'm going to paint my hair and my antlers while my dark brown finishes drying. So I've already got a little bit of brown left over on my plate. So I'm going to take some white and put it right next to my brown. And I'm going to take a little bit of my brown and mix it in with my white. Now when you mix a lighter color, so when you take like a brown or a black and you're trying to get a light shade of that, you want more white than you do of the darker color. It's opposite when you're trying to darken a color. So if you're trying to darken a color, you want less black or whatever color you're trying to darken it with. Sometimes I darken with brown, sometimes I darken with gray. Just depends. All right, I rather like that shade there. That's enough mixed up that I should be able to finish all of it. So I'm going to clean out that brush that I mixed with. Remember, don't use a really great brush to do your mixing of your paint because it's really hard on the bristles. Just use a lower grade brush or a brush that you don't really care about. All right. And to make it easier to work, of course, I turn my wooden door hanger so it's closest to me. I'm going to paint all of this new lighter brown color. I'm using my number 8 angle brush again. And I'm just going to come in here and swoop this paint into here. I did get a little bit of my lighter brown on my brown there, but I'm not even gonna worry about it. I'm not taking a baby wipe to it or anything like that. I can touch it up with the brown again, or I probably won't even need to be honest with you, by the time I'm done. Now if the 8 angle is too big, just select a smaller angle brush size. Whatever works for you. And just remember to do your outlining first. Just easier that way. And keep smoothing your paint out so you don't have little bumpers. Okay, so there's my outline. And I'm going to just fill the rest of this in now with a bigger brush. Okay, so that's the antlers and the little hair of the reindeer there with one coat. Now it is going to need 2 coats. And because I've already got my paint mixed on my plate and I don't have a ton of it left over and I don't want to have to mix more, I'm going to take a hair dryer and I'm going to dry this real quick so that I can start my second coat on it. I will mute and speed up the hair drying process, possibly even cut it out of the video, but I want you to know that it's happening and that's a possibility for you as well if you don't want to wait for yours to dry. All right, so my antlers are dry. My reindeer brown is dry. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get that second coat. I'll put on the antlers and the little hair, and then we'll move on. All right, now I'm gonna take a liner brush, which is just something that has a more of a rounded pointed tip on, rounded pointed, right? More of a rounded or a pointed tip. Either one, okay? It can be rounded or it can be pointed. I do prefer a smaller brush, so maybe like a number 2. And I'm going to take what tiny little bit of brown I have left on my plate, just the regular brown, and I'm gonna come back in on the hair and I'm just gonna draw little wispies. Now, you can roll your brush in your paint. Man, I do need a little tiny bit more. So you can take your brush and when you put it in your paint, you can roll it. It keeps your bristles together. So it gives you a little bit of a point. And I'm just coming in and just doing little swoops. Now they also make something called a rake brush. I have to get up to get it, but I will show you what a rake brush looks like. And rake brushes are great for doing hair, like on gnomes and beards and cows, and well, it would be great for reindeer. So I will show you what a rake brush looks like in just a second. And now remember, like you learned on your last one, if you get too much of one color, your darker color or whatever color you're doing, and you don't like it, you can always come back and add a little bit of the base color back in. So I just rolling my brush in my mixed off white and just coming back to soften up a little bit of this darker brown in here. All right. Just like that. And that's good. That's how I'm gonna leave it. And I'm gonna show you what a rake brush looks like. This is a rake brush. You can see the bristles have been cut out, so there's space between them to create like that beard effect. All right, that's a rake brush. So maybe ask for those for Christmas. Something somebody can buy you. The older we get, the harder we are to buy for, right? All right, now we're gonna put a second coat of brown on a reindeer, and I'm gonna come in with my number 8. I think this is my number 8. This gotta be a smaller one. Yep, this is my number 8 angle tip brush. And I'm gonna need more brown paint on my paper plate. And I'm gonna come in and do it the same way I did it before. I'm just gonna do my outlining first. Now remember, your antlers and your hair might be a little wet yet, so don't get your arm in that. And then just come back and do your outlining first. And remember to sweep up your little bumper crops. All right, there is our reindeer so far. Now I am going to let this dry before I move on to anything else. You can go ahead and dry it with a hair dryer if you would like to, but as soon as it's dry, we'll be right back. Okay, now we are going to work on the eyes, and I am going to use a very fine brush. You can use a liner brush or a rounded brush. It just needs to be small, about a size 3. And I'm going to come in and come around the eyeballs and around here and fill this all in with white. The lashes I'm going to use a paint marker on to paint brown, same as I will do, or to paint black, is same as I will do with the eyebrows, okay? So we're just going to take our paper plate and we're gonna put some white on it. You do not need a whole lot. Just about a dime size will do. And just come in and do your outline first. Now try not to get any white on the eyeball. If you happen to get white on the eyeball, paint the whole entire eyeball, because black will cover the white just fine, but what's going to happen is where the black goes over top of the white, you're going to be able to tell that it's white underneath. It's going to look different than the rest of it that didn't have white on the primer. So if you just get some white paint in there, it's not a big deal. Just paint the whole entire eyeball white, and then when it dries, you can go back over top of it with black. Now this probably will only need 1 coat. But I say probably because you just never know. Just take your time. And remember that you need to be sweeping up any bumper crop of white paint you get along the edges of your brush as you paint. All right, don't leave those bumpers. Smaller brushes hold a lot less paint, so you're going to find yourself dipping your brush back into your paint frequently. That's okay. Just takes a little longer, and that's all right. There's no race here. Every door hanger I paint takes a different amount of time. Sometimes I can spend 4, 5, 6 hours on a door hanger. Sometimes they only take me an hour. All right, and I was wrong. These are going to take 2 coats. I can tell by looking at it as it's drying that 2 coats is going to be necessary. I know I mentioned it once already, but I am not painting the lashes. Let me show you what I did. I just continued down. You see that there? I just continued down the side of the eye, forming that circle, that half circle. That's what that looks like so far. We want to let that dry, and then we're going to put a second coat on. Now my first one is dry, so I'm going to go back and start that one for the second coat and just get a second coat on it. Alright, and there's our eyes. I'm going to clean my brushes out real quick. I know that I am done with all the ones that I have in my cup. Don't want to leave them sitting in there. Okay, so I'm going to finish up my eyes as soon as they dry, but, and I will tell you, say you have a choice on your eyes. You can use a liner brush, a really fine rounded brush, and you can use black paint and do all this, or you can use your paint markers. I'm just going to use my Posca paint pens, and I'm going to use my medium tip pen for the top lashes in the eye, and I'm going to use my fine tip pen for the bottom lashes here. Now if you don't have a fine tip pen, you'll want just to use a really thin liner brush, like a number 2 or a number 3. And while those dry, I'm going to work on my antlers. Now you have a lot of choices that you can do with your antlers. You can do polka dots. You can do stripes, maybe like red and white stripes. I mean, I know we already painted them like a tan color, but if you wanted to, you could go back and put stripes on them. Maybe you want them to have leopard spots on them. You could do leopard spots if you wanted. That's entirely up to you. Me, I'm gonna do polka dots. So I am taking my pack of pouncers, and I am using the second to smallest. Okay, so this is the smallest. I am using the next size up. These are not marked with sizes, so you just gotta wing it. All right. So it's handy to have a piece of paper, just a small little scrap piece. And I am going to use my red and my green to make my dots. Now I still have some red left over on my plate, so I'm going to use that. But I need some green on my plate as well. Now, to use a pouncer, you're going to take your paint and your pouncer and just dip your pouncer into your paint. And then just try and work it up into your pouncer a little bit. And you don't want a ton of paint on your pouncer because it will just make a mess. So have it all nice and worked up into that sponge. Okay. All right, now I'm going to just pick a spot. When you do polka dots, the idea around doing polka dots, it's not just willy-nilly. It's not, you're just not throwing your dot anywhere you want. There's a method, and it's a triangle. So a set of 3. So if you have your dot here, and you put a dot here, you have to form a triangle with your 3rd dot. Then you'll form another triangle with these 2 dots. And then another one over here. Get it? All right, now it doesn't matter if you're switching between colors of paint. You're still gonna wanna make your triangles. So I only have 1 pouncer in this size because you only have 1 pouncer in this size. So I am going to just kind of like pay attention to where I'm putting my dots and know that I'm going to add in a green dot. All right, so I'm gonna start with my first dot here, very close to the edge of the antler versus where it meets the ear. Now, I was talking, so I didn't tell you what I wanted to tell you. When you use a pouncer to make a dot, you push down and you twist about a 1/4 to a 1/2 twist, and then pull up, and that makes your dot perfectly. All right. So I'm gonna come over here, push down and twist. I'm gonna put a green dot here when I eventually have it, or am able to make my green dots. And then I'll put a green dot over here. So if I've got one there, I'm gonna do this over here. I'm gonna let my dot hang off of my antler a little bit. So I'm moving my pouncer off the edge, pushing down and twisting. Okay. I am kind of keeping track of where I'm gonna put a green dot so I know where I need to put my red dots at. And you'll be able to tell when you need to add more paint to your pouncer. All right, now we'll fill in those triangles with the green once I get my red dots all down. All right, so this guy, I want to put one overhanging my ear. All right, so I'm just going to take my little scrap piece of paper and I'm gonna lay it down so that it's just up to where the ear meets the antler. And I'm gonna push down and twist, and there I go. I did my 1/2 dot and didn't get paint on my ear. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean this guy out, and I'm gonna start my green. And if I need to, I will fill that back in with some red. I'm gonna load up my pouncer with my green paint. And I'm gonna start my triangles. I need my scrap piece of paper. All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean my pouncer. I am no longer gonna use that. And then I'm gonna start my eyes. Now I did decide that I'm gonna add a bit of blue to his eyes, so pick out a blue that you like. I'm gonna use a lighter blue. I'm gonna use parrot blue just because it was what was right up here in the front of my little caddy. And I'm going to use a fine tipped brush. It does not matter if you use a liner or an angle brush. Use whatever or a rounded brush. Use whatever you're comfortable with. And I'm gonna take my blue and I'm gonna go to the outside of where my black is gonna go. And I'm just going to come down to, I don't know, maybe about here. I'll show you once I'm done here. And I'm just gonna do a little swipe. I'm gonna make it a little bit wider in the center. So as I get down to the center here, I just went out just a little bit. And then I'm gonna tuck it back in. Just like that. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna start right up at the top where it meets the point there. I'm gonna swoop down along the scored line of the eyeball, and I'm gonna bring it out just a little bit in the center to make it a little bit thicker. And then as I come down to the bottom, I'm gonna tuck it right back in. Just like that. See that it's not as thick on this side as it is on the other, so I'm just gonna fatten it up just a little. There we go. All right, I'm satisfied. I'm gonna clean my brush out. Not gonna use that anymore. Not gonna use any more of that blue paint. You just need a little dab. In fact, you could have just stuck your brush right in, taken the cap off your paint, stuck your brush right in the paint if you wanted to. All right. So now I am going to grab my black. Actually, I'm not gonna grab my black paint marker quite yet, because I decided to do that blue, I gotta let that blue dry. While I'm letting that blue dry, I want some color in the ears here, because you know the inside of the ear is a little bit of a lighter color. So I want to do just a quick swoop inside each of the ears with a little bit lighter color. It's gonna be very similar to this color here, but I want it just slightly darker. So I have some white on my plate already, and I'm going to I want to use a rounded brush, but a pretty small rounded brush. I'm going to use a number 7 rounded. And I'm going to take, I have a little bit of brown on my plate and a little bit of white, and I'm just gonna take a little swoop of the brown and mix it in with the little white that I have. And I'm just gently mixing. I want it a little darker than what the antlers are. So I'm adding more brown than I would have before. So this is the color that I'm gonna use. And I'm gonna make sure I have enough paint on my brush because I only wanna do one swoop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a swoop from here to here. Now I'm about midway through my ear here because in my mind, his ears are kind of like, they're slanted down. So I just wanna see this little bit of brown in here. So I'm gonna grab it here and swipe, and then I'm just gonna round it out just a little. And that's gonna be it. That is gonna be it. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Grab, swoop down. And then clean up any paint. Remember to go back over top of it to get rid of all the bumper. Alright, and that's it. That's all I'm doing for that. Okay, my blue is dry now. Okay, now we are going to finish the eyes. And you can use a fine liner brush and black paint, or you can use a Posca pen. If you got a supply kit from us, you did get the medium tipped number 5 Posca pen, and that is the one I use most frequently. That is the one I'm going to use now as well. My Posca pen is primed and ready to go. Now, when you're using your Posca pen, there is absolutely no reason for you to push down on your Posca pen while you're on your artwork, okay? You should never push down while you're on your artwork because it could cause like a gush of the paint to come out, and then it would ruin it. So never push down or prime on your artwork with your Posca pen. I'm just gonna take my marker and I'm gonna come and do an outline around the eyeball here, and then I'll go back and I'll fill it in just like when we were painting. Now try to keep one good fluid motion all the way around. All you're doing is following that score line, okay? You're just following that score line, just like that there. And then I'm going to fill it in. Just like that. I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna do the same exact thing on this one. I'm gonna trace around the eyeball outline here. Your Posca pen should move very freely. Now I will tell you, you won't get the same results, but you will get good results. You could also use a black Sharpie, and we all know Sharpies come in varying sizes, so you could use a black Sharpie. Okay, I'm gonna do my eyelashes now, same way. Now these ones are a little bit thin down here, and originally I was gonna use my thin Posca pen, but I'm not. I'm gonna stay with this number 5, and I'm just gonna go right in the middle of it and instead of trying to outline it. So I'm just gonna come straight up the middle. just like that. Same with the next one, although you might have to do 2 overlapping passes because that middle one is just a little bit wider. And just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then I'm going to come up and I'm going to do the top eyelashes. Now, of course, these ones are much wider, so again, you can just do the outline and then fill in the middle. Come over to this side. All right, now we have to do the eyebrows and the mouth. So same concept, guys, same concept. Just draw an outline first. Those score lines are not very deep, but they go a long way to keeping your pen right on the line. They're like just deep enough that if you go slow, your pen will stay right on those score lines. It's like a little track. Okay. All right. Now, using the same Posca pen, I'm going to outline everything. I'm going to outline the outside of the eyes. I'm going to outline the hair. I'm going to outline the antlers. I'm going to outline the dots. All right. Same Posca pen, not changing pens. See what a difference that made? What a difference, right? Okay, now for this inner part of the ear, I'm gonna take my Posca pen on the top side, and I'm just gonna draw a line all the way down and just past. Okay, because I want it to kind of look like the ear is semi-folded, and that's just what's peeking out there. All right. Same over here. And then I'm going to come up into the hair. Now you're gonna see that I am outlining the antler where it meets the hairline, right? But now I'm gonna keep this going all the way around the outside of the antler. I am just getting my tip right on the very edge of the antler and working my way all the way around. I don't want a fat line. I just want a definitive black edge. I'm gonna come across the top of my hairline as well. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other antler. Just take your time until you get the feel of your paint marker. Try to get your line even all the way around the outside edge. One good thing about this is if you get it a little light, you can add to it. If it's a little heavy, just add to all the other ones to even out the heaviness. Just like that there. Okay. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna outline each of the dots. Same thing on the other side. And then I'm gonna take my marker and I'm gonna go around the whole outside edge of the reindeer and I'm going to get his mouth. First I'm gonna do the mouth. I'm gonna make it just a little wider, so I'm gonna go back over it just a little to the left. Of the score line there. Just like that. Now if you have a chunky marker, like a number 7, you could use that as well in black. See how that tip's a lot fatter. That would make a good mouth or a good smile. Okay, I'm gonna just outline the outside edge and then we're gonna grab the nose and we're gonna do the nose. So once again, we're just gonna run our paint marker along the outside edge. And I usually use my number 7 for this part. So if you have a number 7, you can use it for the outside edge. It does make it a little easier, but clearly it's not necessary, or it's not needed. Now if you wanted, I forgot to mention this a little bit earlier, for like another alternative, we talked about how you could do stripes on the antlers. You could also draw a half circle here on the snout part and did this a lighter brown before you put the nose on. So you always have options when it comes to, you know, painting. You don't have to do it the way that I do it. And of course my way isn't the right way, it's just a way.
you've been in the studio or you watched any videos, you've heard Melissa and I talk many, many times about her and I do everything totally different. Like she has one idea and I have one idea. And neither are the right or the wrong idea. They're just different. Oops, you can see I got my paint marker. I slipped a little bit. Let's see if I can get that off real quick. There we go. All right, and there's my outlining on the reindeer. Now I'm gonna grab the nose and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna outline the whole entire circle with black. Guess it's an oval, not a circle. And now I'm going to switch over to my white paint marker. And now on my oval, on my nose, I'm just going to do one big swipe right up here. Just like that. One big swipe. That is like the high point of the nose. It's showing a little, like a little shine, and then I'm gonna do a little bit right down here in the opposite corner. All right. And as a last minute thought here, I am going to put some freckles on this guy. So I'm gonna put the nose where I want the nose to go. And then right here, I'm gonna put 3 little freckles, and I am going to just use the same color paint that I had on the antlers or the inside part of the ears. And that was just mixing a little teeny bit of brown with a little teeny bit of white. You might still have some on your plate that you can use. And I'm gonna get that mixed together, and then I will show you how we're gonna do that. All right, so I'm going to take one of my larger paintbrushes, which is, I'm using a round number 10, but I'm not gonna use the bristle end. I'm gonna use the bottom end there. And I'm gonna dip that into my paint like that. See that? Maybe show up over top of the nose. And I'm gonna leave my nose where I'm gonna put it, and I'm gonna put 3 little dots here. Now I'm gonna dot once with the paint marker, or paint loaded on the end of the paintbrush, and then I've gotta grab some more paint because it's really only good for like 1 freckle. And I'm just moving my brush in a little circular motion because I want the freckle just a little bit bigger than the end of the paintbrush. And I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. And that's it. I'm gonna wipe my paintbrush end off with a baby wipe. And now I'm going to take my white paint marker, and I'm gonna add a little swoop of white to each of these dots. Just like that. And then I'm also going to add a couple of dots to his eyes. One larger one, and then one smaller one. One larger one, and then one tiny little small one. Oops, kicking that damn camera again. Okay, now I am just waiting for those freckles to dry, but while I wait for them to dry, I'm gonna go ahead and glue my nose on because I'm pretty confident that I can glue it on without disrupting the paint. So I'm just going to attach the lid, the cap, to my glue, and these teeny tiny ones are disposable. So all you do is twist that cap down tight and it pierces the glue, and then the glue is open. So be careful because the second you twist that all the way on, that glue is open and it starts flowing, so you could get it on your hands. So when you do this, make sure that you're not doing it over top of your project so it doesn't drip accidentally and get on your project. So then I'm just gonna put a bead of glue on the inside of my nose wood away from the edges, and then I'm going to flip it over, position it, drop it down, and then press because pressure activates super glue. Make sure it's where you want it, and then press down. All right, now I am going to build my bow cluster and put my hanger on while I still wait for those freckles to dry. So let's go ahead and build our bow cluster. Now you may have built bow clusters before with bells around Christmas time, but if not, I'm going to show you how to do that right now. All right, you do not have to use the bell if you don't want to, but we thought it was a cute addition to the bow cluster for the reindeer. Okay, so you're gonna take your ribbons. You have 2 of them at 2.5 inch, and you're gonna sandwich them together and fold them in half. They come folded already, sandwiched and folded together, but in case something happened and yours weren't. And then you're only gonna fold them in half one time, all right? And then you're gonna fold them up like a taco, just like that. And then with your scissor, you're gonna cut from the folded edge up and out, and this creates a dovetail. Same on the other side, flip it around, make sure the folded edge is down. You're gonna grab the folded edge, cut from the folded edge up and out, and then you now have 4 small pieces of ribbon, and they all have those cute little dovetail ends. And now you're gonna make an X. Now we like to alternate our ribbons, meaning the plaid is going this way once, and then it's going the opposite the other way, and we sandwich the other ribbon in the middle there, just like that. You can do it however you want to do it. And now to put this little jingle bell on, first we're going to take our larger zip tie and we're going to feed it through that little loop at the back of the bell. Okay, so there's the front of the bell, and if you flip it over, it's got that little loopy thing, and you're just going to put your zip ties through that loop. Okay, the flat end goes up, the head of the zip tie will go down. And now we're going to flip that zip tie and bell over, and we're going to wrap it around the center of the X. You'll have to pick up your ribbons and flip them over, and then cinch that zip tie closed, but don't cinch it tight. Just get it started. Okay, so there it's started. And I'm gonna flip it back over, and I'm gonna flatten my ribbons out and make sure my bell is pointed up and in the middle, and then I'm gonna start tightening that zip tie down. Still don't want to tighten it all the way, and it moves a little bit more. It doesn't move as easy. I'm at a loss for words there. It doesn't move as easy when there's no bell involved, so you're just gonna have to work it around that bell loop. Okay, now I'm gonna take my little zip tie and I'm gonna stick it in the other zip tie, flat end up, and then I'm gonna tighten this all down tight. Okay, now I'm gonna trim that big tail off that big zip tie, and there my cluster is ready. I'm gonna set that aside because I have to put the hanger on. All right, so keep in mind that your freckles are still probably gonna be wet unless you have taken a break or you have dried them with a hair dryer, which I did not do either, so mine are wet. Take the ends of your jute hanger and put them down, one down each of the hanger holes. So you're going from front to back, just like that. You're gonna bring the two ends of your jute hanger together, and you're just gonna do an overhand knot, which is basically making a loop and pulling the two ends through the loop. And then tighten it down, and then you can trim your ends. Now, if this hanger ends up being too long for you, you can always move that knot down further and trim more ends off. So for now, we're just gonna take and we're gonna move that knot behind one of the antlers, and then we're gonna bring the back loop up and the front loop up until they're level, or until they're even. And that is our hanger. And now we're gonna take our bow cluster, and I just like to put it down by one of the antlers. Either side on this particular design is fine, or if you really want, you can put it up at the top. Some people put it up at the top of the hanger. So you're just gonna take your zip tie, wrap it around both pieces of jute, cinch it closed, tighten it down, and then trim the end of that zip tie. And there you have it. You have your Rudolph or reindeer, however you painted it, door hanger. Great for the Christmas season. All right, thanks a lot, you guys. This one was fun and it turned out so cute. I hope you learned a few things, and I hope you're enjoying these door hanger paintings as much as we enjoy making them for you. Take care.